Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Path Forward with Cassandra Williamson. It is Monday, March 25th, I think. Let me check. 24th? Monday, March 24th, 2025. And today I want to kind of cover a couple of different topics. The first one, though, is the first thing I want to say, anyone who makes comments over there on the side or the box on the side or whatever, if you're talking with me and you're here watching, I do appreciate you. And I wish I could get to the comments all the time. There's lots of them that show up and I'm trying to put an overlay on the side where I can catch them right up front. Sometimes I miss them. But tonight I want to cover something else too. I want to kind of cover how me personally, how I kind of have mental strength whenever I face issues or face concerns or have to deal with anything that's stressful that comes along. One of the paramount things is I try to find the humor in something, and sometimes there's just no room for humor, it seems like, but you've got to be able to laugh. Okay, you got to be able to find some way to laugh a little bit. But the way I got there is from something I read a long time ago when it first came out. It was a book that was written by Admiral William McRaven, who was the leader of a SEAL team, who was commander in charge of a bunch of SEAL teams at some point later on. And then he wrote a book. It was Make Your Bed. Now that book, even though we had been applying it, all of us who had served in the military, we know about these things. We've been practicing this kind of stuff on and off, repeatedly for so many years. We served, and then even afterward, it got to be a habit. But that's the way you gain your mental strength too, though, people. You get up and you do something. You make your bed, you make it, you get up, you take care of that, you go walk the dog, whatever you have to do. Go do something. Do something physical and fix yourself some breakfast, because you need to have your physical strength and mental strength. It helps with that too. And then the other things you can possibly do would be, surround yourself with some positive stories of people who have been successful, people in the community, such as, like myself, not my own personal story, but what I'm saying is, what I do is I have always, years and years from high school on, I try to find examples of people who have been successful, who are doing things, making a change, and all that kind of stuff. Well, Colonel Bree Fram, U.S. Space Force, has a website that's called transmilitaryvoices.com. Go there and look at some of the stories, the videos, and the printed stories and stuff that she has put in there about trans people who are on active duty in the military. These are some wildly successful people. My goodness, we've got examples all over the place. And I read of another name today that, I've known about, and I should have. It's Albert Cashier. I don't know if you know who Albert Cashier was, but he was a trans person in the Civil War. Okay. Very successful person. We've been around a long time. Find these stories and surround yourself with them. But one other thing that you can do also is look at your own example. Look at your own life. How did you get here now? What did it take to get you here now? What did you have to overcome to get here? How much strength did that take? People like to say that you've got courage to be who you are, and that's true. But at the same time, it's called perseverance. We have developed the ability to persevere. We've developed the ability to have massive amounts of resilience built into who we are. And we have just developed that over time. We've faced so many things to get here where we are today, that you've got examples in your own life that can be used to help you get through these troubling times with the Trump administration. Yes, there's a lot of horrible things going on out there across the Trump administration. And I'll get into some of the news stories, or one big one, in just a minute. But you can find within you the ability to pull up your own panties and march, Marine or soldier or sailor or guardian, march, or coastie. So whatever, you know how to do this. You've been practicing the techniques for years in your careers in the military, in your time in the military, whatever period of time you were there and forever how long. You know what it takes to succeed, to pass through, to be successful, and to make it through the other side and be the person that you know you're supposed to be. You know what it takes. So what do we do in these times? Well, we kind of go back to our roots again, okay? We go back to the things that made us who we are today. We go back to them. So you go back to, what did we do in the military, folks? What did we do when we were in the military? You drill, and drilled some more. You marched around that darn flagpole so many times, you knew which direction the monkey was going to go, okay? You knew that. So you drill and you repeat, and every scenario, every piece of equipment that you operated, or everything that you did while you were out there, whether on the submarine or whether on the surface ships, or, you know, flying in the planes or in the trenches, you knew what had to be done. Because why? You had repeated it so many times that it was ingrained in you. You knew how to do it. But then it became so secondhand that you could do it in your sleep. And then whenever the trying times did come, when you ended up in combat, or when you ended up in a stressful situation, like, let's say, your submarine's underneath an Alpha class submarine, Soviet style submarine, you know, you're kind of underneath there. You know what to do because you practiced and practiced and practiced, and you don't have to think about it to do it. You know that this is what you have to do. This is what you got to do. You don't let anything hit the deck. Okay. No noise. Run silent. All those kind of things. You know what you have to do because you practice it day in and day out. You do it. So that's why I'm saying that if you get up in the morning and you make your bed, you decide then that you want to make that bed, and whether or not you can bounce a quarter on it or not, whatever you have to do to make it realistic for you, make your bed, get started, do something physical, get something to eat, surround yourself with, you know, good examples of good stories of people who are successful right now in uniform active duty. Surround yourself with that. And then dig down inside and find out how you got to be where you are right now. What did it take to get you there? You know how you got there. You could look inside. I mean, just look inside. One of the things I use, here's an example from my own life, my own experiences, okay? When I first went public with who I am, I had a couple of restaurants, okay? 3. And so I had some restaurants, and I'm out here transitioning publicly in the community, local restaurateur transitioning kind of thing. Yeah, that's what happened. But I was a little fearful. Okay, I had to go one day at one of the restaurants came to me. The manager came to me and said, "Hey, we need to get some veggies because the truck didn't bring all that we needed today." I said, "Oh, okay. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to go to the store. I have to go walk in the store." This is really right before I had gotten comfortable with who I am. Says, "You got to go walk in that store and go to the vegetable section and grab some oranges and grab some, you know, peppers and tomatoes and celery and all that kind of stuff. You grab all that." Well, you know what I did though? I went back to something I'd learned basically in elementary school, really, but I used it more in the military afterward. But, you know, when you want to learn how to speak, the thing that you can do is something that I believe it was Icarus did in Greek mythology. Put some pebbles in your mouth and try to speak clearly out over the rushing sea. Do something like that. You know, you've got to be able to do that. So I learned, since I was in the Marine Corps and the Navy, I had learned a trick, and that is move forward. So what did I do? I decided that I was going to park in the furthest parking spot away from the front door from the local Walmart where I had to go in. And I parked as far away from the front door as possible. Why? Well, I knew that if I'd parked up front, ran into the vegetable section and grabbed what I needed and ran back to the car, I would still be doing that today. So I parked on the furthest back 40 of the parking lot. And I grabbed that steering wheel and I said, open the door and put your foot out and march, Marine. And I did. And I haven't looked back since. I went in that store, went up and down every aisle. I looked people in the faces. And I tell you what, I didn't fit. I knew it. There was a mom with her 4 kids there, and she saw me coming. And I'm just proudly walking through the store. And she said, kids, come here. Get away from that. And I just smiled and walked right on by. And I've used that method ever since. There's nothing that has been able to stop me, because I decided I was not going to let that fear get hold of me. The fear was there. The anxiety was there. But I wasn't going to let it define who I am. I acknowledged that fear, and then I took control of it, and I moved forward. From that point forward, I had never looked back. Some of my restaurants out there started losing customers because it was very public about who I am. And so I wanted to find out where they all went. But I also knew this. I knew a lot of the older people went to the local Wendy's for coffee early in the morning. So I made a point of going to Wendy's early in the morning, or whatever it is, whatever restaurant was there at the time. But you can go there really early in the morning, you find all the old people congregated around drinking coffee and eating donuts. That's where I was. And I didn't just walk in the door and sit in the corner. No. I found an empty seat in the middle of them. And they're looking at me, and I know they're looking at me. I can tell it because I knew I didn't fit in. I knew that I didn't pass worth a darn. But I sit there in the middle of them, and I'd acknowledge some of them, and I say, hey, I missed you over at the restaurant. Stuff like that. They knew I wasn't afraid of them. And they respected that, folks. They respected that. From that point on, I have been marching in the middle of the street. Here lately, I've been in Eastern Kentucky, in Hillbilly Land, where I grew up. And I'm going to tell you, I've had no problems around here. But you know, the confidence is what matters. You've got to have confidence in yourself, but you have also had to take the steps to make sure that you're not trying to be offensive to everybody you encounter. Don't get in somebody's face and say, you know, my pronouns are this and my name is that. I'm going to tell you, that will backfire on you and us, all of us, in a hurry. Every time. I've never seen it fail. You end up in the news. Some person's out here saying in front of the Walmart checkout line, that's not my name or my pronouns, and I've been telling you all along that that's the way it should be. Well, look, I've only got one word. That's the stupidest way of approaching things I've ever seen. We know better, folks. So grab yourself by your panties and pull them up tight, and then march ahead. Rinse and repeat the next day. Do the same thing over and over and over again until you are so confident in your ability to be able to do and survive and work and succeed wherever you are. You've got it in you to do it. Now, let me jump to one other thing. Tomorrow's episode, I'm going to have one that's a call to action. This call to action is we have until April the 11th to comment on a Federal Registry post. Not that it's going to make any big difference, but we have until April the 11th to post on something that the Health and Human Services Department of Trump's administration is attempting to roll back all care under the Affordable Care Act for transgender people, gender affirming care. Trying to roll it all back. All that care that, you know, is out there with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, different sections and rules like that. So there's a rule that I'll talk about tomorrow, not a regulation, that I'll talk about tomorrow's show on call to activism, because we need to take some steps to make sure we let them know what we think. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not going to impact the outcome. They only have to acknowledge the fact that they heard from people. That's all they've got to do. But it's not going to change the outcome. They are rolling these regulations back, removing care for gender affirming care for anyone out there in the country. So we still have to make a loud noise, right? With that, I want to say the path forward, just remember this, the path forward is every day you get up and make that bed, you make sure that you're moving forward, you surround yourself with, good, positive, uplifting stories. You look inside yourself and you find out what it is that made you succeed to this point. How did you get here? You came through some horrible stuff to get here. Well, today is nothing new. It's a little bit more stringent and testy for sure. I get it. I understand it. And I do understand the feelings we have about all this. Believe me, it's wise to acknowledge those and then move on, folks. With that, I'm going to call it a day. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.